Hello, and welcome to this presentation titled SMEs Guide to Digital Transformation, Thriving Amid Industry Giants. My name is Yigit Karanfil, and I am an associate and the director of technology at InStudio. We are a 30 people interior design practice located in Toronto and Calgary, and I am overseeing information technology and design technology at the company. In the past, I held design technology roles in larger corporations such as HOK, Dialog, IBI Group, and HHIS. I'm only bringing this up because it's going to be relevant to some of the experiences and comparisons we make in this presentation. Today we will be looking at how does technology make a design practice competitive in general, and how does it stack up in a larger versus smaller company. And then we're going to dive a bit into the digital transformation process for small and medium design practices. So this is a somewhat arbitrary graphic I created. So I divided them as orange projects and blue projects. So I would like to argue that the orange projects that we generally see in events like this one, actually, we go to these conferences and see the kind of crown jewel flashy projects that are using these custom built tools. Hundreds of thousands of dollars development time went into them, really high tech, maybe one of a kind. But those are not necessarily where most of the revenue comes from for a design company. The blue projects, as I call them, can actually be done by good implementation of off-the-shelf existing technology. Maybe they have more basic requirements and maybe moderate technology costs. So my argument today is that small and medium-sized companies have a much better shot at actually competing in these blue projects by implementing technology well, rather than looking at the orange projects and feel desperate. And just to make a point, like here are some of our clients. You can see Shopify and Google. And on the right side, there's a consulting company I'm not going to name, but it's an award winning project. And if I ask you to count a few consulting companies, you would probably tell me their name. So we are actually serving some high-end, top-notch clients using these methods. And I want to make a comparison of large and small, medium companies. So, having worked at some large companies, you definitely enjoy some benefits, such as having more resources and the spending being more scalable. You have more bargaining power when you're buying hardware and software. You get access to these specialists that are very good at these niche topics that you can go pop a question to. Uh, but on the other hand, in a large corporation, you will typically find that there's a lot of levels of approval and there's a lot of red tape until you get something approved. It can really take a long while to implement a process or a technology. And you can encounter more communication breakdowns when you're trying to communicate something to hundreds of people, and you might encounter some silos where things are kept hidden. In small and medium practices, I've been enjoying a bit less red tape and bureaucracy, really, and that allowed me to move really fast on implementing some of the things I brought in. And generally, there's fewer silos as well. You don't really find too many pockets where the information is kind of kept secret. Uh, on the other hand, you are looking at probably higher cost per headcount. You have fewer resources, and you don't really have that budget for those, developers and these like specialists that you might find in the larger companies. So, with that in mind, let's just move to digital transformation. So, this is something a lot of companies are going through right now, and IBM describes it as a strategic initiative that incorporates digital technology across all areas of an organization. And I really want to make a point that, like, I mean, it's sometimes used as like synonymous as like BIM implementation, or just because someone's using Revit, they call it digital transformation. Just like, oh, we got the software now, it's digital transformation. I don't think it is. Um, and this image is AI generated. But I think what really makes a digital transformation process succeed is like how much your users are adopting, how much it is improving the process and the user experience, cutting any costs and time on processes, having a measurable impact, and maybe creating new revenue streams and maybe contributing to business development. That's what digital transformation is for. And so this is more or less what we've been going through for the past 2 years. And I divided this into four different topics that I want to inspect today. First of them being strategic planning and leadership support. And then we're going to look at building the foundations, namely design technology and IT, selecting your software stack, and automation, efficiency, and new ways to work, which is the implementation part of all this. So we're going to start with strategic planning and leadership support, and you should too if you are going through this process. If you don't have the backing of the leadership, you are almost certain to fail in this endeavor. You really need to understand the business you're in and what your business needs. Then you can align the technology goals with what the business is trying to do. And I think in this process, one thing that is lacking sometimes is being concise. I've seen strategy documents that are like dozens and dozens of pages. I really don't think a strategy document should be that long. It has to be a summary of what we're trying to achieve in the next 12 to 18 months. So, speaking of what we're trying to achieve, let's talk about goals. So typically, you need to define some goals, and what you're looking at is what we're trying to accomplish, what are the costs, and what is the effort that's involved with that goal, and what is the end result? What's the return on our investment of all this time, it's money, what's it going to bring to us? And again, like how you execute them, like the details of that is not a part of your strategy. That's a project plan. You can build them up as you go, as you are tackling these initiatives if you want to. They really have no place in a strategy document. I'd like keeping these to 3 pages or so at most, and then distributing it to everyone so people actually read them. Now, once we build up the strategy, we need to build some foundations that's going to support everything we're doing. And for a design company, I think some design technology, BIM foundations, and IT infrastructure is the key foundations. And this is going to sound strange for those who know me. Like, I've been working in design technology for more than 10 years. I'm going to say prioritize IT. The reason being, it can really get in the way of pretty much everything when you're trying to implement other things. So it really gets in the way of like any kind of updates, distribution, productivity. Like if things are not working well on the IT side, it will really create roadblocks. So that typically needs to be resolved urgently before you can move on to other foundations and other initiatives. So an example of this that I've dealt with is on the left side, you can see a Microsoft Surface laptop. Generally pretty good laptop, terrible for design work. It is really not geared up towards the applications we're using. It is very underpowered. We had quite a bit of designers that were using these devices, and it just wasn't cutting it for us. And on the right side, you can see actually a benchmark comparison, basically. So this graph is built using a Revit RFO benchmark results. And this was my way of converting more people to laptops and getting us more mobile, basically. So I managed to numerically prove that the newer laptops were performing a lot better than the desktops we had. And also the some of the like tablet devices were not performing very well. There's a whole presentation about this that you can watch on Greatex Innovate to Build site. And an example of IT enabling the design technology initiatives is how we are distributing our Revit content right now. So we're now collecting everything in a SharePoint library that is pushed to designers automatically using a Intune policy. Intune is a remote management solution by Microsoft. So it can essentially push different policies, limitations to the user's computers. It can help you with installing and updating things. And in this case, it basically makes the Revit content library appear automatically on every designer's computer. So it is accessible. It's accessible over the cloud. They're not reliant on VPN, and just makes it very easy for us to deploy and for the users to access it. And once you're done with IT, or you completed a substantial chunk of work there that's going to allow you to move on to other things, you're looking at your BIM foundations. And again, something I've seen from experience that might happen is I think sometimes BIM managers don't talk to their leads and designers enough. So you really need to get their take on things because you are looking at the projects from a different level. You have different involvements, so their day to day is not necessarily always apparent to you. So the better communication you have with the leads and designers, I think the more successful the BIM implementation is going to be. Outside of this, each different sector you're working in will require their own kind of content library. Here we are focused on corporate workplace, so we didn't have to really deal with this a lot. But it is important to make the distinction, and it's going to make different departments happy if you deliver this. Then you have your details and project templates. And the most important thing is once you've done all these, you need to document it. Documenting it gives it a lot more legitimacy, and it will help with the adoption and people's understanding of what's going on. So the picture on the right you see actually is, so I have uh, all these parameters we've injected to the doors, and it's a picture that's telling you what that parameter is exactly controlling. So anybody has a question can go back to the document. There's a pretty thorough and long kind of write-up about this. So just an example. So another part of your digital transformation is selecting the software stack, and this actually starts with collecting information. Just find out what you already have, what you are paying for, and what that costs in general. You will need to build a budget, see if that current spending is acceptable, and you can then decide what needs to be cut and what needs to be added. Things fly under the radar, and unused software kind of keeps straggling for a long time, all the time. A lot of my a lot of my work was actually cutting software in the first year or so. And with software, everything's a subscription now. I'm not super happy about it, but that's the reality. And you need to keep an eye on how the terms of service are developing and be on the lookout for alternatives. I've seen changes on terms of service on a lot of software, different software we use. And there comes a point where their pricing and their terms of service are so restrictive that you might want to consider moving on to another tool. It is a difficult process, but at the end of the day, if the tool is not worth it, you shouldn't be paying for it. And on this front, as a small or medium-sized company, you will want to be efficient in use of pricing. So sometimes maybe you buy a tool which does 4 or 5 different things. It doesn't do them perfectly, but if it does them good enough, you might just want to keep them. Like you don't look for the perfect solution. Sometimes bundling them can really work in your favor. An example of this would be for us would be Microsoft. We've actually upgraded our licenses and we let Microsoft handle a lot more these days. We also let it handle our security and device management as well. And with ACC, for instance, we're actually doing all our reviews and clash detections, like cloud collaboration. It's all happening over that. So bundles like this, when you use them to full extent, can be pretty price efficient. And also, what can be price efficient is free stuff. So open source software is at a great place today. There's lots of free and open source software available. These are some of those that I use day to day, but there is many more out there. Just definitely keep track of what's out there in the market. Automation, efficiency, and new ways to work. So this section is about implementing new tools. Basically, any new tool or process you're implementing must conform to one of the following, in my opinion. It either needs to do the same tasks with lower cost, accomplish something that's not possible before, or grant you a competitive edge or attract clients, maybe help with business development. And low code, no code automation is really actually at a good price point right now, and it is feasible for most small and medium sized companies. We are using many kind of off the shelf tools that has saved us hundreds of hours. You don't need to be a full blown programmer to use these, and they can really make your processes efficient. So I have a few examples here, but there is many more out there that can help you with your processes. And the way to advocate for this is relatively simple for a design company. You just need to calculate like how many hours it will save you, and just subtract the costs, and you can basically roughly estimate if the tool is going to pay for itself or not by calculating it over your hourly rate. So real-time visualization tools is one of the things that if you haven't like jumped on it yet, you really need to get on board with immediately, in my opinion. They really can help you bringing visualization in-house. They're very efficient and they have a low learning curve. There's not much reason to uh, do things with like 3D Max and V-Ray anymore, I think, unless you're going for really high-end renderings. And example of something new that we brought in and actually bundling in the local automations into this is how we do our project management these days. So this is an example where we are now building up all our project plans in Microsoft Project, pulling the data from there along with some other resources. So we can kind of add our overhead time, we can add the vacations, and we can basically build up both what's happening week to week, and we can take a look at a longer time span, seeing how are we doing quarterly, how is our workload looking like in the next 3 4 months. So this is basically a process map of like what's happening. There's fairly complex things happening here, but all in all, we're just using some Microsoft tools like pulling data from our HRMS software and just using Power Automate to bring it all together every week. And that will be all for today. Thank you for joining this session, and you can join me at the virtual table for any other questions you might have.